that rough?
You did that on purpose?
I did it on purpose.
Fall over and hit every key? Okay.
I had to do it on purpose, man.
Okay.
Just lighten it up. All right, so we're here today with the Bostrom Brothers, Ben and Eric Bostrom. Thank you for coming on board and spending some time with us.
Looking forward to it. Well,
Yeah.
we'll kind of rake over the competition, maybe. I don't know. Rake somebody over the coals.
Well,
somebody for sure.
Yeah, who have you had? We've had Josh Hayes.
Let's start with Nick, since I just realized where she's squirreling away all the shit I give her every day to take.
Oh my gosh.
How bad is that? Like, why do I take the time? Door bumped open. I'm like, oh my God, look at all those vitamins.
It reminds me of One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, right? And they're just like swirling away all the.
Yeah. One of us has got to be the cool guy, though. Who's going to do this shit?
Oh, no.
You got to protect yourself from yourself.
There you go. Scrub my mic down when this is all over.
Yeah.
Let's get right into it. I mean, how are you both living, under this whole pandemic with what's going on? I mean, have you guys been able to keep an outdoor lifestyle, or you just kind of been cramped up indoors with all of us?
I'm pretty sure we've been squirreled away in a dark hole for 2 months, right, Ben?
Yeah, well, that's not true in Nevada. That's not how we do it here. Sorry, boys. This is not California. Behind us, the big desert. So it's like the whole city's been out there. That's been pretty exciting to see. I'm not used to seeing that many people in the middle of the desert, and they want to talk to you. That's what's weird. Normally they run by and they're like, God, I hope he just says hi. And then, you know what I mean? They don't want to start conversation. This time they're stopping you. Hey, and that part's been pretty cool. But we definitely need active work here.
You'll get heat stroke if you stop. So you got to keep moving, keep the hair flowing.
It's been good. The kid's been out of school, so that part's been pretty gnarly.
Well, that's the odd thing is it's weird out here because now it's kind of like prime allergy season. So if you cough in any kind of proximity, everybody just gives you daggers.
Where do you live?
I'm about 45 minutes west of Manhattan.
We just got away to a week in southern Utah doing nothing but holing up in a kind of an RV and shredding on bikes every day. So it's been pretty good on my end, and gotta stop by and give Benjamin a hug. But it was kind of sad. Like that was the first hug I've given anybody in 2 months, aside from my partner Janelle, and my daughter. So it was like, it was weird, but it was also almost like euphoric. Like, whoa, I get to give somebody a hug right now. This is epic.
Yeah, it seems like it's just a weird disconnect lately, where everything's been done over the phone, either from FaceTime or the latest craze, Zoom.
Sister drove all the way up from San Diego. I live just a little bit north of Los Angeles, and all she did was drive up just so she could call around my cul-de-sac and see us. And we just talked for about 10 minutes, and then she just drove back home.
That's awesome, Corey.
It was just too crazy, man.
I had a friend, Super Neil from San Diego, and he literally drove all the way up, because I'm north of LA as well, and dropped us off a cheesecake and drove back home. It was
Nice.
Just an amazing gesture of kindness, but
it's not that bad. You look at those other countries and you see the little videos that people shoot where they leave their house and they get caned.
That's rough, right?
Leave your house, I will shoot you and bury you. And you're like, whoa, dude, we're pretty lenient here. All of a sudden, like your $3,000 fine for stepping foot in the sand doesn't seem too bad.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like we've got like some weird laws where now you can go on golf courses, but I still can't go get a haircut. So it's like, it's so bizarre. But
yeah, well, that's not how we do it here. Just so you know. See, this is fresh from the other day. Although I cut my own hair, but I wanted to go support the barber.
There you go.
Because they still have to rent the seat. I guess we go. Our restaurants are open and barbershops and stuff.
Eric and I are over here in the Blue State Paradise, being locked down from our neighbors.
I know.
You guys are still out going.
We kind of laugh about it every day. Just because a lot of our friends are in California, and we're like, get the hell out of there, you.
We got up to do a adventure bike shoot a couple weeks ago with motorcycle.com, and we're rallying, these big tuna boats of adventure bikes. They're actually pretty nimble these days, but they're still big. And it was just a weird vibe because everyone was not really sure. I mean, we're like totally by ourselves and not putting anybody. I like literally drove from my front door to the shoot and back, but you're still like trying to be responsible here, but like also like the show must go on, so delicate balance. I don't know. I hope that I'm not setting too bad of an impression, but it was fun to get out there and rally on the adventure bikes.
Don't do what we did, E. We did that. We got on the Strava. We did a big mountain bike ride. There's about 15 of us. Dude, we got some serious hate. It was crazy to see people like just texting and commenting like, what are you guys doing together? I don't know, living, like being like, geez, probably photos of us all high-fiving, but we had gloves on, I think.
Up the question, you guys are pretty active. You guys haven't really skipped the beat. What have you guys been up to?
What are you up to?
Well, what am I up to? I think staying pretty active. I do some coaching at Fast Track at Fontana, which is really cool. Just like super group of people out there, enthusiasts. And so that's rad. You get a little bit of that asphalt kind of fill, a little asphalt fix. And then, do some like adventure riding on some dirt bikes, and definitely some mountain biking. We're just doing like a week. Actually, I've ridden a mountain bike every day for the last 8 or 9 days, which is pretty rad. So I've gotten in a ton of miles, and then the biggest thing is like for me is learning how to do this business thing. So the goal of Backmate is to kind of educate people that it's not really the problem with society is following a symptom, and you really want to get to the root of the problem. And of course, everyone's numbing their bodies with different NSAIDs that are more or less shutting down the body's natural healing process. And it's like, hey, like if you actually go in there and calm the nervous system down and stimulate recovery with circulation, you can get in there and restore the body, put it into a restorative state so that it'll begin to heal. But there's a lot of information that's difficult to digest. So I'm trying to distill it down so it will become fairly easy and fairly simple to go, hey, like I have a headache. What should I do? Well, for one, don't take a Tylenol,
there's other alternatives.
90% of headaches come from the neck, or, I have backache or, low back pain. Well, then we'll go to the hips, or, so there's just there's a ton of good remedies that will put your body into a restorative state, as opposed to just ignoring the fire alarm that's going off in your body.
Did you become, I guess, inspired to do this from your years of racing and maybe injury? You're just looking for just another alternative?
Yeah, it's 10 years of really problems with, I think ultimately it retired me from racing. I didn't really realize why, but it was that I couldn't get in the tuck position on the straightaway, and I was so uncomfortable on the motorcycle that it just wasn't fun anymore. So I left the sport for a while, and then, you're kind of like bouncing around, not really figuring out and thinking, it's like a little bit of despair, like the rest of my life is going to be shitty like this. Right. And then, and my headaches every day and grinding in my neck and having, chronic pain. So once I sort of got onto it, it's like, wow, this sport's too good not to share. And so I've been kind of whittling away on these sort of self-massage products for 10 years or so. And I think, we've done a pretty good job bringing our first one to the market. We have several more in queue. So it's really from personal experience and that journey and the satisfaction of healing, as opposed to just more or less moving backwards or at least staying stagnant, which is just not the way to live.
Now, I got a quick question for you. Do you guys, is it not just the holistic approach of, taking care of your back pain and your neck pain by using this equipment, but I mean, you guys have also been very vocal about your diet and, using the natural food as opposed to, supplementing it with all kinds of other crazy stuff and processed foods. So is that part of what you guys talk about too, is the whole recovery process, treating the system as an organic process? and
Yeah.
not doing, you mentioned not doing Tylenols and things like that. So
Yeah, kind of dialing in the whole spectrum so that you have your sleep and of course your health, and then the recovery side. But Ben's really the man. He is spearheading the kind of supplemental health, and it's been really neat to see his journey. From my side, it's more, I think, kind of like trying to understand the nervous system and how the pain is, how the brain is signaling pain and then sending it back in a overactive way and trying to calm that alarm system. And then ultimately knowing that to recover and to stay healthy, you need all those aspects, which is of course the diet and taking care of inflammation, sleep being really important for inflammation, right. And then staying healthy with exercise, keeping the BMI down. So I think that's the perfect segue to put supplements right into Ben's hands, because he really is amazing quick study on it.
Absolutely. I'd love to hear what, Ben, you got to say about that.
Yeah, I don't know. Eric and I compliment each other in so many ways, because Eric's always been the guy that's, it's more the data. He looks at certain things and I'd be like, look, Eric, it's a 4th gear jump. You just go. Right?
So true. Even yesterday, I was following Ben off these jumps on the mountain bike, and I'm like, well, he's got the right speed. I just gotta go, and I couldn't see anything. There were his home trails, so we're like dropping off these blind edges over, what could be a 200-foot cliff or a 2-foot drop, but I've always trusted him that way. So I just went for it, and it all worked out.
Are you on a stand-up desk?
Yeah, that's
nice, dude.
And I have my little surfboard.
Smoking, right?
What's that? Yeah,
the new smoking. I know.
That's it.
That's pretty good. I'm looking in the background, dude. Oh, I thought that was your helmet back there. Just realized, they're looking at the back.
It's a nice backdrop. I got to say, you guys got nice backdrops. I'm trying to work on my thing. Corey's already up the game. He's got a nice little slideshow in back of you.
I see
over
that.
His shoulder. Yeah, that's.
Between Brian and I, we got a lot of shit going on. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I've noticed.
Look at Brian.
There's a lot. There's a lot going on.
That's pretty good.
It's all smoke and mirrors.
Well, I'll tell you what. On the supplement side of things, because it's a big one to grasp, right?
Right.
Like I remember when Eric brought me the first kind of backmate thing. He had this strange device we're laying on, and you activate it by your legs. There was no motors. It was pretty cool, and I thought, you got to be kidding me. And he's hauling this thing around, and it seemed like it was 300 pounds. And then he had to put it together in the living room, and I was like, no way. And then to see it come into like a fruition, and I could still see the evolution of that first machine happening. It's pretty cool. And so I'm going to learn a ton from it. And then when he finally comes out with a few toys, right, just hit home like, man, maybe I'm just not getting any younger. But I could have used that a long time ago. It's the strangest thing. Like you go around, you're like, I've always had some pain here, some pain there. And you're like, whatever, it is what it is. You just you get tough and hardened with old age. And then at some point, your brother gives you a couple tools and you eliminate that pain. You thought, what the heck was I doing for all those years? I mean, it's kind of bizarre. It's like the first time you had somebody of yours show up, or like a chiropractor, or crack your back or something. You're like, oh, ow. Wait, what? I mean, it's true, right? Like,
yeah,
you didn't realize you're. It's like you should be pretty awesome to your 85 or so. You should be. Dad should be. Like, I mean, the dude's gnarly, right?
You heard that, right? We're supposed to be good till 85. I think maybe I got like 10 more years on, to be honest.
Yeah. And then and I mean, good.
Yeah.
Good. Right. And after 85, whatever. Like, just
This is
there's some pills we can pop to take care of our ladies for that. But
great side story. Great side story. We were out at Paris, I guess a few months back before all this, and so there's a bunch of flat track races out there, and I'm rolling around with my dad and Ben, and there's one other guy that's going pretty fast, and my dad's like, he's kind of saying, I think he's going better than I am right now. And And I'm laughing thinking, this kid's a national number. Like he's one of the 100 best dirt trackers in the nation. Our dad's, 78, and he wants a piece of this kid that's like right on the edge of what he feels is like he's kind of disappointed. Like this kid's just a little bit better than I am right now. But that's to Ben's point. He's 78 and he's challenging 18, 19-year-old kid that is, nationally ranked. So I agree.
Before Supercross season started, Barsha comes out to the ranch and he's like, let's take some laps and do some corner speed up. I want to try to win Anaheim 1 again, right? But so JB and I are going at it, and Eric's actually filming or something or talking to students, and then we're trying to chase down this guy. And, it takes us several laps, but we finally get that guy chased down, and then, whatever, we got flagged in or something. And JB goes, dude, that guy was riding pretty good. Who was that? I said, that's actually my dad. And he goes, how old is he? I said, he's about 80 now. Oh, shit, he's a legend. I got to meet him. And he goes right over to meet Dad. Because, but you didn't realize you're chasing down an 80-year-old man, right? Because I think the mind has so much to do with it, too. Like, if you believe in yourself, you're going to be great. But then you still got to take care of this chassis. This chassis ages, right? Even though you can keep the noodle pretty good, these eyes go, like, all kinds of shit goes wrong. We goes haywire, right? Stuff downstairs doesn't work so well. But, if you stay on adding some of the neat little tools that stretch yourself back out, get in there and take pressure off of certain nerves, you can maintain a pretty damn good lifestyle. And the supplementation of things, just because when you're young and, hormones are great, dude, you can go out drinking all night and race the next day. We've done it. Like, this is easy, right? But when you get older, you're like, well, I think that took like 3 days to recover. That was crazy, right? And you don't realize there's certain things like, oh, I guess maybe there's not enough glutathione in my liver to process the alcohol. Something as simple as that, right? If you're like, drink water. Well, drink water, but what minerals are in the water, right? Mm-hmm. Or how are you going to keep this water better in a way? But the whole point of the thing is, as you get older, you kind of have to supplement with something just to keep your youth, So if you're going, man, I'm kind of deteriorating here. Like the muscle density is getting pretty shallow, this, that, and the other. Yeah, well, just go do some air squats. I don't have time for that. Really? Because you have to pump gas like at least once a week. You're pumping gas. You're sitting there for 2 minutes. Do 2 minutes of air squats, you'll be dead. You'll crawl back into your car, right? But you stimulate the big muscle. That stimulates the body. Hormone production still needs to be intact, right? Don't just sit in a chair. And then you take certain things that, lower cortisol levels, that brings hormones back up. And, you get down some inflammation, because ultimately disease is inflammation, right? And so I don't know. Eric and I make a pretty damn good team. So now that he's done it, I have to launch a product. You see the problem?
Just to kind of backtrack. You mentioned your dad. Your dad's up there in age. That competitiveness, I'm assuming that's instilled in both of you. Did you guys want to follow dad's suit at an early age? Are you guys still currently competitive?
I would say Ben's the most competitive person I know. That's
weird.
Pretty rad. I remember you and Bostrom doing that wall stand, and I think we had probably been drinking for half the night, and then these two guys.
16 minutes. I'll never forget the time.
Yeah, 16-minute wall sit, right? And both of them, and there was a pretty good audience after several minutes, because everyone thought this thing would be over in 5. And here it is 15 minutes later, and these two are just trembling and sweating bullets. But that's the competitive nature.
Frank. But you can't let anybody down, because you got all your heroes are kind of sitting there, I don't care if it's from your Malcolm Smith, the current day McGrath. So it was everyone, because it's the Fox Invitational thing, right? So you step up, or then, in this case, his ass hit the ground, right?
The best part,
there's $5 at stake.
I mean, you guys still have that itch to get back out there, maybe even flat track. I mean, flat track is, getting pretty popular again. You guys ever think about getting back to your roots?
What do you think? I'll be honest. I really, I didn't ride a bike, I think, for 5 years. And then Eric went out to the ranch with one of his schools, and I thought, I haven't had that much fun in 5 years. I mean, that's kind of cool, right? Been doing the bicycle racing to try to entertain yourself a little bit. And there's this funny, I call it the best male dating site going, but it's called Strava.
Women are allowed on Strava, Ben.
Come on, how many guys have you hooked up with on Strava? So that site, you get a race, kind of virtual race, which when we went into this lockdown kind of thing for everyone's still racing on Strava, right? The race was still there. And you look forward to like stealing your friends' trophies, and, you know, they get sent an email immediately like, you know, Ben stole your trophy, which is, you only steal them from your friends anyway. And
of course.
you realize you're still competitive, and if you had like a fun bike to go race, yeah, you'd probably do it. But it's hard to get on a bike that's inferior to what you had, because then you kind of expect to be at the front, even though like we're old, we shouldn't be at the front, right? And you'd run it because you actually believe the bike's better than you, as the bikes have always been. And then you try to step up, and it's worth hurting yourself.
I get so stoked watching like Bayless race around with his son and you know, just hauling ass, and I'm like, damn, Troy, how old are you, 50 or something? But like getting after it, and you know,
winning races.
Yeah, winning races, right? So it's doable. But then yeah, you know, kind of have that other side of like, you know, responsibility and maybe for me, and I'm guessing for you, then, like a little bit of the race has been replaced with trying to absorb information and create a product that can really help a lot of people. And I think that's sort of been my starting line lately. The thing that I hate about it is it's not black and white like it is on the racetrack. Like on the racetrack, you know exactly where you're at in the competition, right? Like whether 5 seconds out lead. But you know, in this game, it's like, it's pretty gray. And a lot of times you'll like kind of bust your ass all week and don't know if you have anything to show for it. But I think that kind of has
different. You know, like the thing with life is once you stop progressing, you die, right?
Oh, yeah.
Once you stop progressing, one foot's already in the hole. Like with Eric's point there, when you raced, you're always trying to find the happy balance of this bike and how they develop a new tire and how that's going to affect the bike, and the pavement changes every year. You go back to the same track. It's different. The temperature's different. Something's different, right? So you're always chasing it, and you're never better than the equipment ever, right? Some days you have great days and your bike sucks and you're like, okay, that thing's a shit box. But in general, like the bike could have gone better. It's just you weren't that good that day. Let's be honest. But the thing is with life, when that goes away and you're sitting there, and I know brutally as an ex-athlete, like I'm up all night. People are like, God, you're like this nocturnal warrior. You're always up. I text you, you're up. It doesn't matter what hour. I'm like, yeah, I'm usually awake. And I'm studying, I'm reading, I'm just frying my eyes, right? And it's because the new race is like, wow, I sure missed a lot of knowledge wasting 20 years of just studying one thing, you know? And you just study the motorcycle. Like it's kind of like all you did, honestly. It's kind of bizarre, other than that and like anatomy of some women. But like the thing is, with the bike, it's one thing. With the world, like is this, right? And all of a sudden you're downloading, you're like, oh, there's so much to learn, and you become kind of happy again. Like the progression, you're learning. So the day you stop learning, 1 foot in the hole, right? Well, no, in the hole. Yeah, in the hole. Yeah. So with Eric, with the business, like that's a pretty cool race. And one of my friends told me once, he goes, I don't think racing did it for you, Ben. He's like, no big show off burnouts and wheelies. You just kind of ride back. And then like, I tell your Sunday night was big. And I'm like, yeah, it's because, you know, it was something, we did it. It was done. You kind of live just to put the visor down. The rest of the time you're doing something, but like when the visor's down, those are all your friends on the starting line, you know, and whether they don't like you, I usually liked all of them. You race and it's epic. It's like when Eric and I were kids, and the new race, maybe the business thing, like for Eric, it's inspiring. So he gets on there and it's new race and you're amateur again, right? You're back in the van driving around the country going, God, I hope I can afford gas at the next one. I got to win the state fair. So and he's doing it right now, and it's inspiring. So it's inspired me, and I've been kicking ass the last few weeks to progress and like make something that we can, you know, complement Eric's thing.
Who was the inspiration for you to get involved in racing at such an early age for both of you? Was it Dad?
Eric, can I go?
Yeah.
It was actually Eric. I mean,
I was going to say the same thing.
Right? No, but that's funny because like, there's 3 of us Bostroms, and actually there's 5 because we had, you know, Dad and Paul. But like you would chase each other around. You didn't realize, man, the effort you put in there. It's like you're racing for $1 million, but you're just in the middle of nowhere on some bike with basically round sprockets. Remember those days? We had our own traction control way before Suzuki came out.
Way before.
And so, but wasn't enough that you still didn't want to be like Tony Hawk and be the skateboarder. And then somehow Eric went racing with Dad and said that was pretty fun. And you should come to the next one. And honestly, that's what it did. I remember going with, there's like this tiny little like 1/8 mile or shorter cushion. Do you remember that? It was thick at Lodi Cycle Bowl, and they ran in the indoor, and like, man, that little bit of like, wow, I'm not racing my brothers anymore. I got like other people on the track, and that was it. That was kind of hooked me. Snag.
Yeah, you went from like 0 to 100 like you always do. Ben, I think I stayed and kind of dredged around the back of the pack for a while until I figured it out. But Ben was like straight to the front, like I'm going to win this thing or ball it up. It was great. But I will say, like, some of the best races I've ever had and the biggest wins I've ever had were literally just racing my brother in the backyard and having, these huge battles that would, like either end in someone crashing or running out of gas. But because one thing you don't do is you don't pull off the track when you're in the lead in front of Ben, because he will get pissed. The race is not over.
Now, did it get physical out there? I mean, with you two, was there a lot of elbow nudging? Was
the joke with the joke when you ride with Ben was how many wheel tracks you would have like on your boots and rips in your jeans or whatever you're wearing from his front wheel, because he's kind of kind of aggressive, I'd say. And hey Ben, how's that injury from tangling with Barsha there?
Yeah, now there's my point. I think I'm fast, right? And I definitely have his number on this TT track. And Eric's riding us. Eric's all over us. I'm like, look, if I don't make the move now, Eric's going to make the move, right? So I got to get JB back. Like back in the day, you can almost time anything. You're going 200 mile an hour, and within inches, it's no big deal, And now here we are riding these little bikes, and I've already got the thing full stick. And I'm already looking inside so I could high-low this kid. And, Barsha was aggressive, and he's fast too, but apparently my eyes aren't so good, and I clipped that wheel probably by like an inch or so, and like it sent me off, and I've got this injury. I signed up for Ironman. There's no way I could have done it. So, thanks COVID for taking me out of that. But honestly, you can tell your timing is not what it was. And maybe because you don't do it day in and day out, but whew, man, it's hell. It's hell getting old in the way. That's why you gotta keep yourself young.
Now, I gotta ask, what was it like when you both were racing? Did you guys share a lot of information, share data, or is kind of like, no, you're on your own, you figure it out? Did you guys help each other in some way kind of progress?
I think it was an evolution. Like, we were going to the dirt tracks together in my van, and, we were helping out each other, like changing each other's sprockets or tires or whatever we could. And then we got into kind of racing factory superbikes, and you're really not sharing information. I mean, we're on like sort of, different platforms, racing against each other from different teams. And you're kind of feeling like maybe you shouldn't be trying to help this other person or to that level. And then a year or so later, we grew out of that, and we're just like, who cares? Like I want to win, but if I'm not, if there's anybody I want to beat me, it's going to be you. So I think we've always tried to help each other. And I can remember like, Ben flying back from Europe to like cheer me on, kick me in the ass. And same for me in 2005 when Ben was on kind of a slow Honda at that point. And I was trying to help him find the legs on that motorcycle, which were never found. Were they then?
They were, but it became more fun to ride, right?
Okay.
That's true. I was driving back, even though I had I was injured. What happened wrong with me? Some sort of elbow injury. But we went and raced France, and Eric had helped set the bike with the team. And I raced that last race at Mandy-Corey going, this thing's kind of fun to ride. It's slow as shit, but it's fun to ride. Like the bike was actually fun. It didn't matter, except that you're about half a mile behind everyone.
Yeah.
It was fun. It sure made it better, yeah.
What was that moment where you realized I made it? Like everything, all that hard work, effort, got me to this point. What was that moment for you both?
It was actually being teammates with Doug Chandler. I mean, here I was like, 7, 8 years old, watching the San Jose and Sacramento Mile, and these are your heroes, right? It's like Bubba Schobert and Scott Parker and Chris Carr, and then like fast forward, and then follow his career, through Europe and whatnot, and then fast forward, I guess it was 15 years later, and here we are, like, trying to take this Kawasaki right there on, to the front of the field, and that was just like, oh shit, like I am legit. definitely arrived, and so I don't know why it didn't happen before then, but that was like very real.
I think Eric and I were on these Harleys, and thankful for the Harleys. I mean, they gave us our career, but when you got the first phone call to actually ride a 600, and I still had to work on the bike and drive it around the country, but I was like, what? Someone's going to provide that bike, and that kind of made you get hope, and then hope wasn't enough. Then 98 came, and I was on a full factory bike as a rookie, and we were racing World Superbike. And you don't ever really think you're that good, because you're like, well, I just race in America, and there's this much bigger level over here. And we had World Superbike going, and I was racing for second place, and they canceled the race. And then the next one, we got third. And I remember thinking, wow, it feels pretty good. But it didn't really hit. And then Merlin walks up and he goes, "Master, you have arrived." And I'll never forget it, from Merlin Plumley. Like, and I thought,
Yeah.
have? And from then on, I thought, wow, we could go over there. You just had that confidence, like, we're good now. And you feel like we've made it. Like, that's because, I mean, how much bigger can the scale get? I mean, unless you're some race in the universe we don't know about.
Did you guys have a teammate that really helped you kind of grow, as far as performance on the track and off the track, professionally in your career? Was there any set teammate or set, rider, racer that inspired you guys to just help you grow, maybe have a different mindset, different approach?
Driving around the country racing dirt track, and you're starting, dozens of times on the weekend, and you're kind of in the bull ring, right? And we had been there at that point for several years, racing from like kind of amateur into the professional dirt track scene, but there was always somebody to come back to and like kind of digest the what went right or what went wrong, and that was always Pam.
You're lucky enough to have each other when you're young, and then you progress into, we have all kinds of different teammates, and obviously you have some favorites and some that really pushed you, but you always had your brother there as like a rock, and like that's the baseline of a great teammate, because you actually want to help each other to progress the bike. And if he beats you, he beats you. He just rode better. Well, it's the same with your teammates, except that they didn't want to help you, and well, you didn't want to help them either. So.
Now, was that the same when you guys were both doing Superbike? I mean, we talked about it earlier. You guys didn't want to share data, but then you're like, screw it. We're on different platforms and whatnot. And what was it, like 2001? You guys were definitely on different platforms. Eric, you were on the 750, and Ben being on the Ducati. What was that like? Did you, all of this camaraderie of being young brothers and growing up doing flat track together, did that happen on the track, or did you just be like, I'm going to stick it to him because I know where he's weak and I'm just going to take it?
We got to race with each other all day enough. It was one of those strange deals. And when I coming back, and Eric was doing wild card that year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the same kind of like shot I had at 98, and we went out on the track together. Did we go qualify or practice? What were we up to? Qualify.
Yeah, I think practice or qualifying. Yeah.
Right. This is fantastic, right? It's a track we both kind of dug anyway. So going on, and it's the first time I really got to ride with Eric for, I don't know, like 15 minutes. We're out there just cutting laps up, and you kind of watch each other and you're like, oh man, that bike's hurting there. But the aggressiveness and like the will to stay together, and we're 1-2 on the time charts. And that was pretty cool. Because you used to see, the Colin Edwards, the Baylisses and Hagas and people, but like it was Bostrom, then it was whoever else, right? And they were totally different bikes. Like they were really different bikes. And even our styles are kind of different. Eric would have to ride pretty aggressive on the green bike. What did I'm trying to think what Ringo called. You had a name for you, but you know, and I was always kind of laid back and more relaxed than, you know, wing it. But the times were identical. It was fantastic. Yeah.
How was it like in your household with your dad being a racer? I think your uncle's a racer as well. Like, did they push you, or was it kind of like, here, try some other sports, and then you could eventually gravitate to a motorcycle? How was it like, you know, growing up?
Yeah, that's a great question. Motorcycles just brought our family together. We'd go riding and go to the desert for Thanksgiving or go to like Pillsbury for Christmas. Like, definitely the racing thing was never pushed or even really thought about until at some point our dad got the urge to go do some flat tracks at Lodi Cycle Bowl. And I think I was kind of at that age where I'm like, yeah, I'm sidekicking with dad, you know, this weekend kind of thing. So we put some like little trials tires on my CR60 and I went out there and like splatted on the asphalt. Well, it felt like asphalt. And so I can never think of my dad ever like you know, there was never a push or much direction. It was really just this. And maybe he could see that there was so much energy and competition between Ben or I amongst each other that he never felt like he needed to say anything. But it was really just like a fun, like, you're gonna find this, you know, you're gonna do whatever you want to do and make your passion of it. I can remember one time Uncle Paul had come to Lodi, and you know, they both our dad raced professionally in the 50s, 60s, and then Paul in the 70s. And Paul had said, you know, you need to sit closer to the gas cap. And I guess I was riding the thing like off on the rear fender and I had no idea what I was doing. So, and I was like, yeah, that was cool. Like, I just got like something and I tried it and it worked. And then I thought about it for a while. I was like, why doesn't my dad give me any tips? But it just wasn't his style. And I think that's kind of like how it was.
That's pretty good. And then as he got older, it was too many tips, right?
Yeah.
They're so different. But dad didn't push us. And I always thought, man, I wish he would have. We gave up a lot of years of waiting to race bikes. Like, we were already racing, but we didn't know it. And then when dad got the urge to do some vet racing, right? Eric came back home. That was pretty fun. And that sucked me into it. We never really sucked Torsten into it, but like for us, it was, do you remember Eric were driving one day to the races? I think we're both in the pro class by then because we're 16 years old, or at least I was. But dad goes, you know, at this progression of the sport, you know, one of us could seriously get hurt. So if you have to consider that if you want to keep doing it, which is so dad, right? Because he was always like, never try to win, third's better, live to race the next day. I mean, and he goes, then there's a long time to live after racing bikes, as there is for him. Like, he's pretty injury free and awesome. But like that, I'll never forget that little speech. And I was thinking, wow, yeah, I guess this could become a job. Insurance. And I was thinking, yeah, it's definitely worth getting hurt for, but not like a crippling hurt. You know, you kind of set this rule. But I remember that. Like, dad just didn't push. There was zero push. Thank God he did. I'm not sure what we'd be doing. Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, so, thanks for bringing that up. That was a cool memory.
What was that transition then? I mean, you know, we've spoken to a couple guys, and we know a bunch of guys that, you know, grew up, you know, flat tracking, and then everybody's got a different transition into road racing. So what was it for you guys? What was that transition? What was that first experience on a track bike? Were you doing track days and then just said, yeah, this is kind of nice, you can incorporate your skill from flat track into this? Or how did that opportunity come about? What was your guys' transition over into road race?
You remember all those track days, Eric?
Yeah, they were.
Because there wasn't any. Yeah. So funny.
We both had the first same track day experience, which was Laguna Seca at a AMA National on a turret of an 883. So that was the limitation to like club racing that we did, which was I guess the 883 was kind of that.
Wow. Damn it, you got to start first again. Eric's done this racing too. That's right. Yeah. And then I came along the following year.
Oh, right. That makes sense between the. So yeah, so I beat you to it. I beat you to Mecca. I think I spent more time riding around in the gravel trap than I did on the racetrack during that race, but it was
I
a
was so
blast. And
because you were like kicking ass and you had never even road raced before. And I remember just thinking, that's incredible. Do you remember the time we went out to the Roberts house and we had those little, what do they call YZR 50s? We had more fun making motocross jumps for them. And you had to kind
yeah,
of, like, if you didn't seriously manual or make the transition, you weren't making the next double. And then we bring those things out to and KR's got this track set up for him. I remember going at it on those things, going, this is actually pretty fun. But there was no way to road race. That was like, that was just too far out there. It was big money and this, that, and the other. And then the Harley class came along and Eric was doing it. And I think, hey, look at those results. The kid's always in the top 5, like first try at the Nationals. So I'm leading races. And I thought, and then I don't know, somehow I got lucky enough to do it the next year.
You know, the cool thing about the road racing was you actually had time to figure it out. On the dirt track, the problem was you'd have these guys like Terry Povey or like the Springer walking up to the starting line smoking a cigarette. And you're like, you're serious, right? Like, this is an athletic event here. And then they would just kick your ass. And they're, ancient. Like, to me, they're ancient. And of course, being friends with them. But you would never get it figured. Maybe by the end of the night you would start figuring out, like, oh, okay, like the track's like moving this way and the setup should have moved that way, but it's already time to go home. The bike's in the truck. And then you'd like have the same experience a week later, another week later, or in dirt track like a night later, but you just never get there by the time you need to get there. And the road racing, it was pretty cool. Yeah, it's like 3 days, and I sucked on Friday, but by Saturday I could probably qualify at the bike in a decent position, and Sunday I'd be competitive.
Yeah, and the track wasn't changing. Like in dirt track, that track, I mean, every time you went out, it was a different track, and you're like, dude, I'm just chasing this thing. And these guys have done it for so long. And I think they're more relaxed about it. They just knew, like, the track's going to change as we race with every lap, We were sitting there on the starting line with Springer. He's probably finishing his last puff of his cigarette. He's still got his shield up. We're sitting there, and he's staring at something. I'm like, wow, it looks pretty focused, right? You know what he's looking at? He just looks over and taps me on the shoulder, and he goes, Ben, check out the jaws on that one. How's he talking about? And he's looking at the girl that holds the start line girl. And she just had the really tight pants on, and that's his comment. And I thought, really, that's what he was focused on? It's almost, then, put out this thing, right? Put the hat down. Okay, good luck, and that's it. Start race. And I think, God, as a kid, you're freaking out. You're like, okay, I got to be in, I start in second gear because of my gearing. I got second gear, sit back, lean forward, shift there. Like, you have all these, they weren't even thinking that. It's bizarre. They just hand it to you, and it was easy. It was cake for them. I think because they're relaxed about it. Like sometimes you have your best race because you've been out all night. And the time that you think about it and you stewed on it so long, you're exhausted by the time you even went to the start. Just looking for this thing.
That was one thing I always found crazy is I spent last year working with Estison Racing over in flat track, and it was a new format for me. So seeing that they only get 5 laps of practice session, they only get 2 practice sessions, and then they start doing heats, and then they start doing last chance qualifiers, and I'm just listening to everybody as they're coming off the track, and I'm going, you've only done 4 laps. How do you have a chance to know what's going on? And they just go, it's just the way it is.
Right? Yeah, and it's 4 laps. And you're like, it's not like a road race track where you can be out there for 2 minutes, a lap.
Right.
No, they're like, what was that, like 20, 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? You're like 4 laps, you're like, you got 2 minutes of track time.
Yeah, and then they would water it, and everything's different.
Yeah, but we just drove 2,000 miles for that. That for I guess 2 minutes or whatever it was.
The van it got along with the 460 motor.
That's right.
Now, do you feel like with the way racing motorsports is advancing, do you think nowadays people have more advantage, more access to tracks and training to get in condition at an early age? Or is it harder now for a teenager or a young adult to get started in a career in motorsports and motorcycle racing, whether it's dirt or road racing? Do you think it's harder, a little bit easier? What's your opinions on the current generation of road racers out there?
When we came through as kind of the tail end of dirt track being like turning into the road race ring, and it made perfect sense. Like from the time that like the Wayne Rainey's and in Kenny's of the world, Lawson. From the time they're kids, they're just like starting races, start race, right? So, but by the time they're 10 years old, they're badass. They have tens of thousands of starts, and it doesn't matter what they get on. I mean, whether it's road race or a dirt tracker, they're going to be good. So at that time, the Europeans didn't have a system like that, and so the American road racing got really good. I don't know how the heck like Mick Doohan came along and some of those great racers, but now it's so tipped the other way. If you look into the way that the Spanish and Italians are training to become road racers, and they also have decent, like I would say, pretty good access to real support. It's the scales are heavily tipped into that European advantage. So I think here racing in the U.S., like you definitely can get track time, but to compete is not so easy. With more laws and just making things more challenging. And the reality is, the only way you get faster is by competing. Like you can go out and drone around and do laps all day long. And I say, my best lap time on any given racetrack by myself would have been 10 or 15 seconds slower than trying to chase my brother or, the competition. So you have to compete to get faster. And I think that is a little bit challenging in the U.S. today.
Back in the day, it's different though. We had people went outside. It's so different. Like this day and age, like if your kid's in trouble, you have to say, go outside. Back in the old day, we'd say, go to your room, But now you can't get him out. So if you can't get him out, there's no way you're going to get the kid to go out there and like start riding his motorcycle or take him to the track. And then from there, the progression, like there's probably series out there I haven't paid attention to. Hopefully there's still a little amateur series that are super cool. You see a lot of people going out there and crashing their bikes. I do see that here. We have a few racetracks, really cool. But in general, they're our age bracket. They're older, right? They have a little bit of money and they just, they got a track bike and set up, and they probably got a track car too. In this day and age, where for the kids, man, they need to progress some sort of e-sport into our sport, and that's the only way. The problem is the kids get on there and they want to it's some gun game. You're shooting each other, and the only thing cool about it is you have to work as a team. You see those e-sports, and they're still a team. They got to kind of collaborate and go as you would on the motorcycle. You have your team, and you start with one mechanic, and you're sharing driving duties, and you're trying to help him like shut tires while he's working on the bike and this, that, and the other, and you go, and it creates this camaraderie, and then then it's 3, 4, 5, 6. Pretty soon you're on that full team, and it's pretty cool. And if everybody could get that feeling of that, the feeling is incredible when you work as a team and progress and actually do something, whether you fail or not. You're like just getting together. I always call it like this little circus. We're a small group of people. We travel around the states of the world, still your friends. Hey, that guy knocked you down. You don't like him. He's probably going to buy you a beer and apologize. And as the kids these days, if you don't get them out and start them on some outdoor activity, they might never feel that. That progression of being outside and sport, and that's why sport's so good. I don't care what sport you do. We just happen to love. I love motorsports. Maybe you have to. God, it sure seemed like you didn't have to work as hard, but you worked really in hours, but you didn't put in the exact same training, I guess. But it's tough on the motorcycle world because it's not a necessity. Back in the day, I guess it wasn't a necessity either, but you got dirt track was cool. Your heroes were cool. I keep seeing this guy in the background. I see McQueen back there, right? Like those were like the guys, right? And like this day and age, the bikes could still be, but people, they're not even buying cars.
Let me ask you this, because this is one thing that Corey and I have faced, when we've gone on interviews and dealing with riders in almost the last decade. Did you feel at your age, getting into motorsports, getting in overseas to different series, that you had to brand yourself a certain way, you had to go about a certain way? Was there certain restrictions from sponsors? Because it seems like with social media now, you can't really be you. It's almost like an image that you have to just put out there. And does that was that kind of prevalent? I mean, I know Instagram and certain things like that, entities weren't out in the 90s. I'm just saying, like, did you have to be aware of how you were portrayed on and off the track?
You didn't have a social media following you around, so when you got in trouble, you knew you got in trouble, and your close friends knew you're in trouble, right? And if your team heard about it, some of they just buried it because they don't want to have to, I don't know, reprimand you, I guess. But like, your character is what created the fans. I was never that awesome. I just enjoyed like going out with my fans all night, and if we'd be in Australia, I'd stay there until I had to go to Japan, until I had to go to England. And you're just out and about, and you race the bikes because that was like a side job. It was like for fun. Someone's paying you to fly around the world. And other than that, life was on this adventure, and you just happened to get a race with all your friends. It was unbelievable. And that's probably the image I portrayed, and that was just me. And then I would think of my teammate Ruben, who was very much like me, but he didn't want to portray that image. Okay, and it was like he would try to set up like he's training, he's not going out all night, and Ruben was just as bad as me. And and nowadays I see the kids, I think what they have to put out there, but they don't. I think if you really want the love of the fan, you can't be robotic. The roboticness, like once you all look the same, you're all wearing a black shirt, right? Look at all of us. Look at Brian there in his gray shirt, right? Like, so that person's going to stand out. People are like, man, I just like the character. And once you get the love of the character, that's what sells. So if they see the numbers and they're like, oh, everyone likes this person. Like in my case, there was many times I deserved to lose my ride, 100%. Like my results just weren't there. And I was like, they just know it. And I've been kicked off the bike on Friday, just saying, you're not allowed to practice on Friday, come back tomorrow and qualify. And I thought, whoa, on a world championship scale. And like, but we know you've been out all night. Someone told on you. You came back at 6:30, right? I was like, wow, that's pretty bad. And so if you take that away from the person, I think you take it away from the sport. Without a character in the sport, I don't care if it's golf or whatever, people like to read about the characters, and that's where the fan following came from. That's also where I would still have a ride the next year. They're like, wow, the fans kind of love him, give him his ride, right? And you'd have a line out the door for like your autograph line, or like, remember at times having bodyguards stay with me so I could actually get from the door or the box to the trailer. It was impossible. And Ducati used to laugh. They're like, Ben, you probably didn't even make the top 10, and you're not going to be able to get it out of this box. And I thought, wow, that's funny. But, you were out at the discotheque all night with them the week before, all those fans, right? And they remember it. And I think in this current day and age, like the kids had some character that brought something funny into the sport. It's just be you. Just be you. You can't change you. You change you, you're probably not going to do the sport as well either, And
I mean, Corey and I could testify. We've done interviews with, again, not naming names, with certain select few, and it's the same line. It's the same monologue. And I'm kind of like, off the track, you're a cool guy. Just show it. It's a shame because I do recall 10, 15, 20 years ago that it was just a different atmosphere. It was more of a laid back atmosphere. Yes, it was professional, but you can be you and not be judged. And I feel like now there's like, I guess it's cancel society. You can't be you. It's got to be this image, and you got to be about the brand, and that's what it's all about. It's more the brand than you.
Let me tell you a story. You know how I got that World Superbike ride?
No.
Because Troy Corso was just being himself, right? If he's just being himself, Troy is, he's going to be out till the sun comes up on Sunday night after racing a bike and drinking this, that, and the other. And so when I got that phone call, and they're like, you're going to have to come over and do World Superbike. And I said, no, I don't really want to. You guys, your bike broke down a few times. I lost the title by a hand, like 4 points or something, right? I said, I'd really like to go beat that Mladen guy, and then I'll go over there and race for you. I got lots of years. Like, I'm cool. And the way it was is they go, no, we actually hold your contract. You're gone. You're going. And I was like, well, no, Troy's awesome. And I like Troy Corser. Like, he's amazing. This guy is phenomenal. And they go, yeah, but he's got these other issues, and they're bringing up the drinking, the this, and the parties. And I thought, God, no, I really love this guy. Like, he's just they fired him because of it. He didn't let his image go outside. And then who do they bring over there? This guy. Same story, right? So I got the same problem with the parties on Sunday night. I wouldn't even bother cleaning up all the different like hard alcohol and beer cans around the motorhome Sunday morning or Monday morning. In Tardazzi or somebody would walk up and have to pound the door, wake you up. and I would laugh because Corser was still awake, right? Like he'd be in his motorhome 9 in the morning. I'm like getting up hurt. I've got like 3 hours of sleep, and he's still at it with the Aussies. And I thought, man, I love these guys. Like they're really living. Like for all the time that we sleep, they're living. So if we made it to be 80 for sure, and they died at 82, they really lived to be 100. You know, like the progression was there. But I just remember thinking, they're probably gonna fire me. Because I knew it and I got fired, right? But they said, Ben, we actually didn't fire you for that. It was the results. We actually needed results, right? And so the next year I didn't really change. It was just kept me in the same thing. But that's how I got my ride, because at the time they thought we need a clean cut rider. You know, he's got to be, you know, whatever. It's got to be this way. And that didn't make the fans, you know? Like the guys that you really looked up to was, think back, like who was awesome? Maybe Sheen, like this, right?
Right.
Yeah, those are the guys.
See, the thing is,
who's the Formula One driver that you guys all remember? Maybe his last name.
Schumacher.
Yeah, I'm talking like Schumacher. Yeah, because he's just a machine, right? He's awesome.
Right. Yeah.
But you look at like back in the day, and you see Hunt.
Oh yeah, James Hunt.
You're
Yeah,
like,
James Hunt, Barrett Sheen, all those guys.
You want to like follow his story. So if you're going to make a movie on somebody, who are you going to pick?
You go to different endurance races or whatever, time trial races like the Isle of Man, you know, Macau GP. That lifestyle, that energy is embraced, you know. So it's like that. You know, have you ever guys checked out any other, you know, kind of road racing?
Yeah, we almost got our ass kicked by a bunch of Manx because Foggy was popping his mouth off, telling them to shut up at our table, and it turns out, you know, a bunch of skinny motorcycle races aren't really much of a match for you know, some hardened Manx Islanders. But the road racing scene is like pure energy. But I don't know if I have I don't know if I have it for that. I mean, to watch the bikes come by, you know, 120 miles an hour, like with the, you know, in some high speed wobble, it's just like, it kind of makes your bones chill. And it's like, okay, like maybe I need a little more safety room than that. So it's amazing to watch, but I don't know, sometimes almost like irresponsible.
Now, I'm not letting you off the hook, Eric, because you were very quiet. Ben kind of confessed a lot of things. What was your racing like? I mean, did you follow Ben's suit of going out and having some partying and staying out late, or were you the exact opposite when it came to like your race program and what you were doing?
I would say, you know, I would go over to Europe and follow Ben around like a puppy dog. And we had some big times together, but Europe was like so much. I don't know. It's like, so the racing and like the you know, where everyone ended up, and it was just it was so much more like a family there. And not say that the paddock in the U.S. wasn't like that. You know, you'd have like some road races like Elkhart Lake, and everyone would go to Seekins or whatever, and you'd have like Jim Allen streaking through the bar kind of thing, which was annual. But you know, we just didn't have that. There was no like obvious, I guess, meeting spot. But so I would say it was almost calmer by nature, maybe a little bit me, and then maybe a little bit more just in the U.S. They're just, you know, like half the time you're in the let's say like somewhere in the middle of Ohio there, and Manchester in mid Ohio, and you're like, okay, best thing to do tonight is go to sleep, because there's literally nothing else to do. Like the sidewalks are rolled up, as opposed to, you know, you're in you know, let's say you're racing in Monza, and then you're right next to Milan, and of course Ben's best friend is like the you know, like the well, kind of that Howard Stern of Italy, and it's like, okay, now we just had like the race of our life, because, you know, you're racing on this historic road racing circuit now, and now we're going out and like we're going to have the night of our life, and you bet we did. So
It's
so
good. It's good.
yeah,
That's the thing is I keep on telling Corey, we got into the sport way late. I got in like 2005 and I'm like, we missed all the fun. These are all the great times and now they're all back of us, so
Oh yeah. I
yeah.
remember my first time going to Seekpins. I was just like, "Oh, this is what all the stories are all about." This was. I left after like 10 minutes. It was like I think the only person there was Zemke, and he was just kind of just chatting at the bar. I'm going, "This is not the story. I've not heard this." So
It's funny you say that. In the U.S., I think the kids were younger, and the older ones knew that they're not going to leave, so they're fine to have fun. The younger kids thought they had this dream to go to Europe. And they didn't realize by the time they get there, they've actually made it. And those people knew they made it. They weren't getting kicked out of this little circus we're in. And so I got some horrendous stories I have to go to my grave with. Early, but like
Yeah, we'll save that for another show. But
Yeah.
that's my thing is like when you mentioned like going over to Europe, not to get myself in trouble, but every time I've been overseas, I never really slept because you went out with the group, you went out with the family, and that's where you really got to know everybody over a drink, over whatever meal, or just whatever club you're in at 2, 3 in the morning. And that's how you bonded with everybody. And that's where everything was like, again, this big traveling circus / family, and if you didn't do that, well, you weren't part of the story. You weren't part of the family, and you kind of got a little, I don't want to say excluded, but, it just was one of those things that like you just went with the flow, and the flow was go out all night, go have fun, and just celebrate life like each day, live it to the fullest.
Do you think they still do?
not as much.
No.
It's
No,
pretty calm, right?
it is. The couple of flyaways that I've been to, usually Sunday night, like after Magny Corps, it's obviously in that small little village, and 2 or 3 people would go out, but for the most time it was just the comms people going out. The riders would always go back and get ready to travel out the next morning. There wasn't always big parties or anything like that. It was really weird.
Eric said it once best, and he was just referring to bike racing in general. But I used to say, when I was racing, I knew some of the crazies before that because I looked up to some of them, and I said, man, I kind of miss my era. You know what I mean? And everyone's like, Ben, you're on the skirts of like the wrong era. Like these guys are a little more clean cut than you. And Eric said it. He goes, I think we raced during the golden era. Do you remember that, E? Just before you quit. Like you're like basically quitting. And I'm like, why are you going to quit? He's like, I think we raced in the golden era. And I thought, what an interesting fact. Like literally it was fact, because at the time it was before really the recession or anything like that hit. And like the salaries were still really high. Everyone was living pretty large. There was a big field of factory teams on every starting line.
The bikes were pretty raw, which was rad.
Super fun to ride.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so true.
I agree with you. It was the golden age, I think. When we look back on it, you guys were right there at that edge.
Did you see that photo in the background? You see that curb right there? Did you see that curb that was berm shotting off of behind you?
Oh, yeah.
Crashed on that twice. That photo pops up, I laugh. I'm like, God, that thing has bit me in the ass. Because I always use it as a motocross berm. And twice I've just had the tire slip on there.
Oh, man.
Slip over.
Yeah.
Like actually spin on that thing. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Because that is right in front of all the mechanics. That's coming onto the front. And there's your bike. It's down there in 1,000 pieces. Sorry about that.
Well, what did you think of New Orleans, Ben, when we were there? I know you were riding for Jordan at the time. What did you think of that track?
Track goes or the atmosphere?
Well, the track. I mean, you're talking about tracks that were pretty gnarly and pretty slick and all that stuff. And I mean, the runoff there was right into a swamp into the snakes and gators.
I didn't go off the track. I didn't like crashing.
No. I got a picture of you kind of going through the grass a little bit, but nothing big.
Yeah. There's gonna be a few. Yeah.
Ben's never been afraid to test the limits. I remember we were going in, like he was getting ready Supermoto X Games, and we went out to Paris to go do some laps. And so the track's really simple. There's like 3 left-handers and 1 right-handers, and the lap time was about 25 seconds. And so about every 30 seconds there was a sound of, and then the bike firing up again, and then another lap, and 30 seconds later the same sound. This happened 4 out of 5 times, like 4 out of 5 laps. And our friend Ken Breeke was there with us, and Ken's like, man, I don't think Ben's gonna figure out that right-hander. but but it was great because we had like nothing with us. It was just like this like stock dirt bike, and there was the factory Yamaha team there, and Ben ended up caning them like big time. When all we actually Keith McCarty took away the flathead screwdriver I had to tune your suspension.
Funny. I remember that. Man, that is funny. But I'll tell you, like as much risk as I think I'd throw out there, I've just never seen anybody like Ruben Chaus. When I went over there, we had a Bologna show, and there's about 2 million people that go through this thing during the week, and it's a big deal. It's live air, and they're like, okay, you guys are gonna race Supermoto this weekend. And I was like, what the hell is that? Like and I didn't realize it was like Wide World of Sports back in the day. And they had provided us with these bikes, and it was freezing cold. It was probably 35 degrees out there. And I was like watching Ruben the first session, because they broke us up by different numbers. And he go, man, you look amazing. He's like, oh yeah, Ben, you just have to believe. And I was like, yeah, but you're like just slam. He's like, yeah, you just believe, which is Ruben's way. And that's why he crashed so many bikes. I mean, we counted, I think in testing, he crashed 25 superbikes.
Oh
And you just believe. And then the Supermoto, like to Eric's point there, you're not going that fast. Just throw it in. Who cares? You just boom. It's gonna hold, or it's not. And then you keep finding the limitation of it. Those are good times, man.
Now, I would love to segue into both family life. You both don't get me wrong. You both have 2 daughters. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
It's not correct. It's not correct at all.
No. Poor information.
Okay.
I have one daughter. Ben has a son and daughter.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, because I've got a daughter too, and I would love for her to be involved in the sport. Do you think it's harder for a female to be involved in motorsports? And would you, again, it's a 2-parter, would you want to see your daughters follow in their father's footsteps into riding and racing and being competitive?
Eric will probably say the same, but if you think about it, if the girl has, God, it's terrible to put it like Sack, right? If she's willing to put it out there and run with the boys, she's going to get more support. And it's just because everybody loves the dark horse, that the dream is to see her beat all these guys. I don't care who you are. And even them, somewhere it hurts, but they're like, that's amazing, right? Because it's not normally done. And so, yes, but as a dad, I don't know. I mean, it's scary because you treat your daughter different. Your son, like, God, he's a little shithead, right? He's over there sitting there smacking your daughter, and you're like, huh. But the girls are sweet, and so to see them, I don't know, on the track, like, huh.
I mean, if she turned around and said, Dad, listen, I want to get on a bike. Could you buy me one? Could you teach me? You would be willing, or would you kind of have that same conversation of like, just tread lightly? Be forewarned, you could get hurt.
Yeah.
I think, that answer is going to be different for everyone. One of one of my best memories watching a race was in 2010 watching Elena beat up on Cam and Tyler O'Hare, and just what a magic day that was. So yeah, I think the support is obvious, and to see women participating, there's no reason that a woman can't be world champion material in motorcycle racing. But then there's that other side of like, do you put them in the sport? That's going to be it's going to take that special character. Like some children, doesn't matter the gender, are just not going to put it out there and have that courage that Ben's talking about. And then others are going. You'll see the little girl at the park that's just like bouncing off the ground and getting back up and doing it again. So I think that it would be the best thing for the sport, but maybe not always the best thing for the child, right? Like because
his daughter, like your daughter, like you can tell. Like I can tell you right now that's not my Ella. Like she couldn't do it, right? She's got this weird built-in talent, but she doesn't believe in herself, right? And then I got this son who doesn't seem to have much talent and just overly believes in himself, right? Across the street, my neighbor, this little girl is unbelievable. I've never seen some little girl just carry so much talent and like confidence in her life. That girl could do it. Like I think I told her parents, if she ever wants to do anything, I'm here to support it because that's incredible. This little 4-year-old is gnarly. But when I raced, there was Katja Poinskin. Do you guys remember her? She was world's like super sport champion.
Yes, vaguely. Yes, the name sounds.
Yeah. She was world champion, right? And so it was cool. Like and she was so fun to hang out with all the guys. And she go out there and just slay the boys. And we'd all just cheer on because we're like, this is the best thing ever. But she had that built-in drive,
Right.
Do you think having more females in motorsports here in the United States might make a little bit more of a difference? Might break that gender barrier and get more people to more fans to the races? What do you think that could work a little bit more? A little bit more as far as for sponsorship and just a little bit more of a outside kind of looking in as far as like media attention.
She's going to get most of it, and that's what's so cool. Yeah. I think it would help. If you look at the bikes nowadays, they're not hard to ride. If you're talented, the horse does all the work. You're not talented, you're dying halfway through the race. You're working, and so it doesn't matter on the gender. Talent's talent, and if the horse is doing the work, she's going to kill you. Plus the power to weight ratio alone, because a lot of times, in general, females are lighter. But the fact is, if they could win, I don't care what sport I'm going to watch. And it might be a sport I've never watched before, but if there's a girl winning, I'm watching because I want to see it. I think that's just how humans are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like if you go into like watching a woman's road race on bicycles, like the women's races are way better than the men's. The men's races are so like kind of controlled and boring, and the women race like it's fireworks, and you'll have like these insane breakaways and tactics. So it's as society we still have to get there, but we need those outliers to actually break down those barriers. And I'm always surprised that Katja didn't get better support. I mean, she rode for Corona Suzuki right now, but I always thought like she deserved more support because of what she was doing. She was maybe almost too soon. Like she was almost too far of an outlier.
I don't know if you can compare the NBA to what U.S. Motorsports, Moto America is doing, but like, you got NBA and then you got the WNBA. Is there really that big fan following? Is, maybe having more females in the paddock, is that the way to go? Is that the way to draw more fans in? And to me, I feel that is. I don't know. I think having that diversity, I think that'd be awesome. And again, talent's talent. That's why I just love to see more attention to the sport this year, the next couple of years, just to kind of just keep that momentum going.
Yeah, but I think motorcycle racing is stuck a little bit like in like we're definitely not leading the charge, right? So you go to a Supercross and there's like these like the women are more or less like the starting line like Monster Girl or Road Race, whatever, same with Umbrella Girls. And like if that's what your daughter's being exposed to, like there's no room for them there, and it's I think that has to change. There has to be, instead of this this sort of I guess holding women in that regard. Yeah. It's like no, there should be women engineers on the team, and I've had a few, which has been cool, and I know Ben has too. There should be, of course, all genders competing in the racing. But as long as you're having I think, you have these pretty big brands like, let's say Monster, that they have the ability to change this image of the sport, but instead they're kind of riding this wave of like, okay, this is what motorcycle racing is, and this is what people want to see, and so you have the Monster girl out there holding the board, and that's women's place in motorsports racing, and it's upsetting, but it will change. It just I think that some of these bigger companies didn't need to actually take ownership of it, and then we'll see that happen in the near future as opposed to the long term future.
You have the new website. You know how there's that Monster Girls, Monster Men, right?
That's it. That could be you.
I don't know if you guys pay attention to Moto America in the past couple of years, but TOBC Racing, Corey and I have worked with them doing interviews, and Shalina was running for the team. She was running on a team. I think she was running a 600 in the super sport class, and then she also had a female mechanic, and it was just like a breath of fresh air. It was like, she's got the talent, she's got the backing. This is good. This is a good segue, and that's where I would love to see more females in the paddock. I thought it was just a breath of fresh air. It was a different atmosphere, and it was all about talent.
It's strange. You get the group of guys. I've had this like who hasn't had this 1,000 times, but you can wait. I'll tell you why. James, I'll call you back. So he's got how's this? He's 5.
No.
5 cavities.
Ooh. No.
He doped him up good. He's been knocked out for about 4 hours. Just woke up. Like,
good luck.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Like he was out cold. Like he looked like us on some kind of bender, But go back to what I was saying is when you put all your buddies go out in a group, right? And like there's kind of this strange aura. Like, you know what I mean? That energy is kind of, and all it does is take one person brings a girlfriend, but not like a girlfriend, like just a friend, but she's a girl. The group, it changes. It's really strange how it changes everything, and it becomes funny because there's like there's almost that thing like what Mel Brooks said, when you can't pick on race, comedy's dead, right? And so with the guys, there's really nothing to pick on. You're all the same. I mean, you're the same gender, right? Yeah. Maybe not this day and age, obviously. But if you throw like a couple girls in there, they're so funny and so much more crude, and like and everyone's like the energy level comes up, and it's incredible. And that's what the motorsports needs. And almost like if I was playing golf, you want to see the girl should be competing in the men's game. You know what I mean? It's almost like one of those things where you gotta mix them because it creates different energies. It's
No, it's true. I know Melissa Paris, she's obviously a team owner. She's also running 600s, and she has female crew. It's not an entire female crew, but I think, at least in my experience in the paddock, other than TOBC, which then became a woman-owned business when Michelle took over, you're right. There's not a lot of women in the paddock doing other roles other than just holding umbrellas or holding up start cards. And once that starts changing, I believe then everything else will start to elevate.
Yep, well said.
I always look back, having kids, reflecting. That's what I do as I get older. I reflect. And, my reflecting lately is, God, what would I tell myself, my younger 20-something self back in the day, how to do this and this? What advice would you give a 20-year-old you looking back?
I think I would have told myself, like, really enjoy this ride because it truly is a ride of a lifetime. And we did. Like, we would go out and like kind of hammer ourselves, like from, riding dirt bikes to, having house guests like Anthony Gilbert stay in the house for long enough to get himself kicked out of our house for, urinating on our floor and everything else. But but also to really like kind of spend maybe a little more time on the motorcycle and try to figure out what that little bit of like magic is that maybe you're missing. Because there's no doubt that when you go racing in Europe, there's something extra special there as far as drive and like desire. And I don't think that the American racers have that. And part of it might, I think, you know, the desire is number one, but then the other side is I think the 20-year-old Eric was kind of too scattered, maybe trying to look the part or be the part, as opposed to when, you know, I can just experience other things in life rather than going, hey, this is my time, like this is the golden era, recognize it and get the most out of it by just eliminating everything else. Like you can still go out and have fun, do everything that we did, but spend more time on the bike, actually like dedicated, like at least, you know, 2 or 3 days a week. I should have been like practicing on, you know, like a flat track bike or something to like kind of dial in and get that little last bit that kept maybe that kept me from making the next step in the sport.
I'd probably echo something Eric said. When you race, it's a short time frame. You know, your lifespan's like this. You know, the racing's actually only here. I think in any sport, any athlete, well, unless you play golf, but maybe dedicate more to it. I used to tell everybody, you know, I show up to the track and I was a big, healthy tree, and every time I gotta, you know, go do this, go do that, you know, each person's picking a leaf, and by the time you want me to show up at, you know, 2:00 on Sunday and race, like I'm just like these limbs, you know, no leaves left. And I didn't realize it, but I picked all those leaves off before I even showed up on Friday. That was me, like every weekend. You know, I'd only have a few left, and I'd give them away because I generally liked the people at the track. I don't care if it's your mechanics to the fans. Like you just give away the rest of your leaves, you know. And it's tough to tell a kid, but you know, people say, you know, you got to either like work now, play later, or you're gonna play now and you're gonna work later. You know, that's true, except it's not as much fun to play later. You know, you play early in life when you don't make a hotel reservation. You just show up and you're like, there's no place to stay, so I'm going to sleep on the sidewalk. And you're totally cool. You would never do that at 50 years old. You know, and the other thing the problem with the kids is like they go, oh, you know, that kid's got so much talent or this, that, and the other. And it's not true. I've been beat by, we probably had a handful of talent, not quite enough talent to get away with what we were trying to get away with. But there was people that just didn't have it, but they worked this hard, and they're always going to beat you. You know, you'd have your day now and then. But those guys, you know, they say, you know, hard work beats talent, except when talent works hard, right? So if you have some, put a little bit of work in, because the racing is not going to be there forever. I mean, don't be robotic but you guys were mentioning with some of the racers. Still be yourself, enjoy life, because it really is a short time frame, and later on you have your whole life to play and do whatever, but it won't be as much fun. Trust me, the playing's not as good. And this is the way the world is now. There's so many ways to make money and do things and enjoy it, because you don't know if you're going to be around. You know, you have a lot of friends pass away when they're in their 20s, and even if they make it into 60, they pass when they're 60, and they've made it and they're worth lots of money and they pass. They ain't going to spend it, right? And so it's a little bit tough balance. You remember when Evel Knievel was like, you know, I spent 35 million, but I made 33 million. He's like, and if God wanted me to take that money with me when I died, he'd put handles on it, right? So you're really not here that long. And that's what you got to tell the youth. Like you really got to enjoy it. Put a little more work in, you know, like there's certain friends you gotta, if you want to be around money, start hanging out with your lawyers and banker buddies, you know, like if you want to do bike racing, you got to hang out with those athletes. You want to be an amazing drinker, dude, you got lots of friends at the bar. Like you're cool. So you gotta dictate it a little bit, and then, you know, just don't indulge as much as maybe some of us did.
Who, as far as that's racing now, who has caught your attention? Who do you think is going places?
But there's some kid that was on the MotoGP last year that just seemed to come out of nowhere. And you can just tell when somebody gets on the bike and they're super comfortable. It's a French kid. How do you say his name?
Quartararo?
Yeah. That kid. You know, like that's pretty amazing. Like you just, some kids, you know, it's depending on what they jump on and they just go. But he's gonna give the boys all kinds of trouble this year if we ever get a race. And it's kind of cool to see. Like you get, you know, and back in the day, I remember watching some of the young kids in America thinking, we got a pretty good crop coming out here right now. I just don't know if there's going to be a place to go. You know, I can think of there's dead zones, and we just didn't really have it. And we're like, wow, there's a lot of us old guys getting the factory rides that we shouldn't be here. We should step out, you know, and then, you know, then you got factories going, no, please don't leave, because actually we need that name of the sport for the TV, for the fans. But eventually you got to build up the young name and kick us out of the sport, because that's, you know, you got to create the new fans for which is not easy to do. You know, that's why it takes years to like, or some character, something odd with the new kid. Like he's got to have some sort of character or something that puts him out there. You know, you wouldn't just step into Hollywood and think you're going to make it without having some weird aspect of you that's different, right? The same for the kid. If he's going to put his name out there, and then the sponsor's like, I want to help that kid. Like, people love him. But then you do the work and you put it out there. Like, it's tough, you know, and then kick us guys out of the sport, and then they don't need us anymore.
Joe Roberts, who, you know, had a really exciting race there in Qatar, and it's really exciting. It's interesting to watch people's career paths. You know, like when Chaz Davies was racing here in the U.S., I thought, okay, Chaz is like good rider, but I didn't think he was like world champion material. And lo and behold, you know, he is. So people find their strides at different points, or you know, typically it's kind of like a kind of confidence. It's the opposite of the cascade. Like, you know, you're kind of stairway to confidence, and watching Chaz find that has been really exciting since he was racing, you know, since he was kind of boy racing in the U.S. But to see Joe kind of starting to maybe get some of that, like, you know what it is? It's that I belong. Like, wow, I actually belong here. Because once that door is opened, he can potentially move into you know, a really good ride at the you know, on the MotoGP bike, and potentially find his feet there. So I think, you know, that's been really exciting for home front.
That's a good point. You know, like, in his coach is Hopper.
Right?
Yeah,
And both
Hopper
just
over here, and he was, you know, riding Super Sport for Valvoline. He took this ride that I turned down because everyone's like, go ride this MotoGP. I'm like, I'm not that good. And I was just honest, like, I don't want the ride. And Hopper took that ride, and it's this 500 two-stroke Red Bull. And I thought, man, I don't think that's a good choice. You know, like, that's just me thinking outside the box for him when I was a kid at the time, because I turned it down thinking I don't belong there. Hopper belonged there. He got on that bike and he flew, right? And maybe that's the case with someone like a Joe Roberts, who's like, I don't know if I quite belong, you know, I'm not really a top 10. You get Hopper behind you, he's training with you, going, look, you're as fast as I am on these little flat tracks, whatever you're riding. I don't care what you're riding. But like, that confidence, once you race at the front, you just feel like you belong at the front. And maybe it just took that Hopper to be like, dude, and that's going to be the case with a lot of these kids. They're good enough. They don't know they're good enough. You know, you just have to literally believe in yourself.
So that's interesting, and now you open up a kind of can of worms, because I'm like, I was going to end it, but it sounds like with every good rider, there's a coach or someone behind him.
You know, if you look at other sports, whether gymnast or like ballerina or whatever, you spend 99 to maybe 100% of your of all of your activities in front of a coach, right? And then, you know, you kind of have this like hillbilly motorsports thing where, you know, Ben and I you know, going back to what would a 20-year-old Eric Bostrom do? It'd be find a good coach and really try. And if that coach didn't work, find another one, right? Like, just because I think it could have eliminated so many mistakes that I didn't need to make, and just shorten that time horizon into really feeling comfortable and knowing that I belong there at the front, and just kind of progressing. So I think that coaching system is working so well in Europe with, right, like Jorge Lorenzo's father, coaching schools, or, different, all kinds of really high level coaching going on that we really don't see here. So I think that is it. And I don't think it's here.
Maybe it's because you're held accountable. Like a coach, you're kind of forced I don't care if you're doing motorsports or you're just like trying to lose weight. And the coach is like, look, I show up on Tuesdays and Fridays.
Right.
And this is my 2 hours, right? I'm not going to bother to show up if you're not going to do it. And you're like, oh my God, I got to do it. And the coach kind of holds you accountable. Plus you have somebody, I'd be out there riding the track, and if I knew Eric was watching, or really any of my friends, you know, I'd go faster. I just put in the effort to be like, they're going to know I'm out here, you know, and I'd put that effort in, and I'd take off that second lap to be out there. And I think the coach holds you a little bit accountable. I remember a strange time, the only time I think I've ever really had it, like coaching, I got fired. I was going to Hockenheim, and I was going to test a bike, the black bike for NCR. And if I didn't like the bike, I was just going to go home and get paid out my salary, and they were going to give me a factory ride back in America. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll go do it, only because you've given me a B option, you know, well, a B and a C option, really. But I flew there, and Randy Mamola showed up, Alpine star. Gabrielle flew him there, and I never spoke to him in my life. And he goes, I'm just here to coach you for the weekend. Gabrielle's paying me. And I was like, no, I'm cool. And he's like, oh, he's paying me to be here. I'm going to be here. You know, and I thought, wow, that's weird. And he would just sit there and do this to me, like in the motorhome, and like, he kind of watch the paperwork, you know, and he'd be like, you know, this is the lap times is what you have to do. You're not that far off in this section. And I was like, man, I hate this bike. And he's like, that bike looks shitty. And then Ducati flew in a guy, and they changed the bike. And Robbie goes, look, I don't think I could have the bike built by Sunday. But he had put in so much work rebuilding the bike because he was kind of afraid of the bike. And so had Mamola all weekend coaching me. I was out there and I was running around. I don't know. Maybe I was in 10th place. And that's as good as I was going to do with a factory bike anyway. And I stayed out there, and at the end, I go, Randy, what should I do? And he goes, you belong out there. You need to stay one more weekend. Go race at the next round was in Italy. And he's like, go race that round and see how you do. Then make your decision. And I thought, man, if I didn't have him, I would have just quit. I'm fucking out of here. But I tell you, I stayed. Dude, we didn't even have tires. We showed up, didn't have a tire to qualify on. We started 16th because we made that last 16, but we didn't have a tire. So then from 16th, we went, and by the last lap, we were leading, right? And all of a sudden, I felt like I arrived. And from then on, the factory team didn't beat us anymore. But I would have left had Randy Mamola, hey, you need to stay. So, I mean, that's where the coach, like, you know, a lot of people are at hour 11:59, you know, is any sport, but like, especially in motorsports, it seems like, and Eric and I have been there, and like, you just want to quit because that's where most people quit. They make it all the way to there and they quit. But if you make it into that 12th hour and 12:01, you're probably going to do something spectacular. I feel like it's a little bit like that aspect in business as well. And you're like, this is just, you know, you just watch the money fall apart. And then, you know, you got to stay in the game. But the same for the coach kind of sticks you in the game, holds you accountable, and like makes you go into hour 12, you know, where you're like, this is too hard. And now that I've been there, and I wouldn't even have thought of that story had you guys not brought up this.
See, words of inspiration right there. Each time we record an interview, we get words of inspiration. It ends just like that. That is perfect. Beautiful. Very well said.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, I wouldn't be Ben Bostrom without that. I've been like a guy who raced in the U.S., tried to win over there, failed, and came home.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Wow.
Corey, so once again, I've stumbled over your questions. Do you have anything?
No, I'm good, man. You guys answered a lot of stuff. I just enjoyed this interview thoroughly, you know, and I appreciate you guys taking the time. If you guys got any last minute things you want to, you know, talk about your Backmate again real quick and kind of tell people where they can get it and take a look at it.
Oh, thanks, Corey. Well, you know, I think the website really has all the information. I mean, the idea is that, of course, you know, is to own your health, not let anybody else be in charge of it. You have, you know, you can go this path, which, you know, let's say is the left path, which is, you know, drugs and stunting the body's healing process, or you can go on this other path, say left path, which is surgery and kind of, you know, really just, well, you don't want to go down that path, right? You're kind of disabling your body and the recovery process forever. But there's this whole center path, and it reflects back on you and your daily lifestyle. What are you doing? So, you know, I say if you're having pain, or if you want to improve your results in anything, you need to shine light back at yourself And the goal with Backmate, and we're just starting this journey, which is to make all that information very digestible and easy to attain. So
Eric, you're rambling. Now listen to this.
sorry.
Wouldn't ride your bicycle or your motorcycle without doing a little daily maintenance, right? Because that thing will kill you. But somehow we ride this thing. No one maintains it. No one cares, right? So how about a little daily maintenance, like 5 minutes a day? It's no big deal. No big deal, right? And to feel that much better and then have the rest of those years to feel awesome. You just take care of your chassis.
There you go.
That's what I can.
That's
I gotta,
good,
I
Ben.
gotta, I gotta look into this.
So, in the idea there, sorry for the ramble, but it's tough because I just want to like go farther into the subject. But the idea is we all know about working out, but very few of us think about working in. So what are you doing to actually take care of the chassis? And thanks for summing that up, Ben.
Guys, thank you again for being awesome. We went again. Once again, we were supposed to cut it to 30 minutes to an hour, Corey, and here we are 2 hours later. So
I think it was 100% worth it. You guys were awesome. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, Jim, thank you. It's so good to interact. I think that's the thing with the humans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The problem with the virus is the lack of communication. We live to communicate and hang out with others. And I think that this little Zoom I wish I invented it. It's amazing.
It works.
Yeah,
It works getting the message out there.
It's been a gift and fun to hang out. And definitely fun to kind of like, get into our wheelhouse, which is motorsports and then also like, of course, just personal performance. I think that's everything. Like if I'm not doing my best at something, why the hell am I doing it?
Right.
So it's been awesome, guys. Thanks.
Okay, sounds good.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you
Yeah,
guys
thanks, guys.
again, once again, for making the time. I appreciate it.
Be good, guys.
Sure.
All right. Have a great day. See you guys.
Take care.
See you guys.